Hello, welcome everybody to another episode of Yecca, where we cover culture, conspiracies, carnivore, and Christ consciousness. Today, I have a very special guest, one of my favorite content creators in the carnivore and health space community on Instagram. His name is Rory. He makes funny videos along with easy to follow and super simple, delicious looking recipes. Thank you so much for coming on, Rory. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So, yeah, I just want to let everybody know that somebody is creating really good content when you only have 71 posts and 144,000 subscribers. I didn't realize that's how many you had. I just saw that. I was like, oh my gosh, because I think I have like 700 posts or something on mine, and but it just goes to show, how important putting out quality content is to, you're not just putting out like mindless content. You put a lot of thought and from what I've seen you post also, you put a lot of energy and a lot of yourself into your posts that you make. And I think it really shows. The stuff that you make is really awesome. I love it.
Thank you. That means so much. Yeah, it took me like about 10 years to become an overnight success. So yeah, it was a long process, but it's wild, We all want to grow an account, but then when it happens, it's like, oh, all right, it's go time, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's so much work too. Like people think that it's like, oh, you just live your life and you just record yourself doing it. And it's like, not really. It's like you do get to live your life, but there's so much work and so many pieces that you have to put together behind the scenes. And it can take hours or days or weeks just to put together a 10-second reel sometimes.
100%. And like one of my most popular videos, I tried the line diet for 24 hours. It was like half a joke because you watch all these videos. It's like I ate only Chipotle for 24 hours. It's like, oh, let's do that with the line diet. But I actually legitimately wanted to use it as a gateway to use a meat-based diet or carnivore to start with helping my autoimmune issues, gut health issues. So I did that video as a joke, but I spent 2 or 3 hours editing the first 7 seconds. Right. And then for a whole 60-second clip, I don't even think it was 60 seconds, took me about 10 hours because I knew that if I made it a banger, then it would work. Right. But yeah, didn't expect it to take off the way it did. But, yeah, you obsess, spend a lot of time, it's worth it though.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like I said, I love the stuff that you make and I know a lot of other people do too. And when you create stuff that's different, a lot of people can relate to it and they're intrigued by it. And so then it's a really good way to shine a light on things that you find important. And I think that's so cool. Could you tell people a little bit about your kind of like your health journey and how you started your Instagram page?
Cool. All right. So I'll try to give the short version, but essentially, I was born at a very young age. No, I'm 34. I live in Brisbane in Australia. I'm a dad. I've got a 5-year-old, single dad, ladies. And I've basically I had health issues my whole life, over 30 years, with all sorts of different health issues, which is wild to think. You know, uh, Typically you're only supposed to have health issues when you're older, but we obviously know that's not the case, right? People are getting chronic stuff from very, very early ages. For me, my health stuff started, I think, when I was about 2 years old. I started to have like infections. I had grommets put in my ears, my adenoids taken out. I became asthmatic at around 4. Lots of medications, lots of steroids. Not the gym kind, but the kind to help with the airways and etc. But I was constantly on some sort of medicine or preventative for between 4 and 16 years old. I'd get sick regularly. One time I remember going to hospital for like food sensitivities, bronchitis, glandular fever, all the fun things with asthma and gut troubles and food sensitivities. So, so it wasn't fun. Obviously, other people have it worse off, but that's not something anyone should experience, especially kids. So it limited me a bit in my life, but overall, I did my best. Had acne as a teenager as well, which I got rid of with Roaccutane, which is a very toxic drug that dries out your oil glands. And apparently, I don't know if this is true, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Please do your own research. But um, as I was researching this as an adult, apparently Roaccutane was like initially used for cancer treatments, and then they found that it dried out the oil glands in the skin, and they're like, oh, let's use this as a let's repurpose it as a medicine. Don't know if that's right. I heard it from a couple sources, and I looked into it, but I just thought that was interesting. Whether it's true or not doesn't surprise me. What they do with the pharmaceutical industry, right? But it actually really it affected my health a bit. The stuff, my skin was really dry, my mouth was really dry after that, and I think it actually started to lead to some of the health issues that I had as an adult, because it can affect your gut as well and cause inflammation in your gut. But then that was all my health stuff. But then my asthma cleared up as soon as I stopped taking the preventatives, and which is wild, right? Like the preventatives are supposed to prevent the asthma, but I went off them, and then I was no longer asthmatic. And but my health like was improving around 16, 17. But then my dad died from a heart attack. He was 46 years old. This was Boxing Day 2006, and this was my catalyst into kind of like my spiritual journey back then, and like into vegetarianism, that kind of thing. And I went vegetarian also to impress this chick that I met on MySpace back then. For all you youngsters, well, actually, we're all old now that use MySpace. I was called a boomer
Yes,
the other day.
yeah.
That was fun.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah. So I spiraled down, for a bit. I was very heavily into drinking, smoking weed, starting to try other drugs, and then I I was in a death metal band as well, and I was in like a doom electronic band, and black metal, very heavy music, and hardcore lifestyle. In the bands, I used to wear like fake blood to the gigs and face makeup and stuff like that. Like very, very different to Jesus loving me right now, right? Totally, totally different. But yeah, I just went in this spiral, and I had a palpitation, anxiety attack one night, and my mum came to me and she's like, yo, why don't you? Well, she didn't say yo, but she's like, why don't you go into a yoga retreat, just get some space away from all this toxic lifestyle. I was like, look, let's do it. So I went into a yoga retreat for about a month, and I loved it. And I got clean from all my drinking and everything like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to come back here. I'm going to live here. This is going to be my life, because it just confirmed so much for me around spirituality, around life. I could eat plant based there, no problem. So I went back, got all the rest of partying out of my system, and then I went in, shaved my head, took a spiritual name, got a guru, and yeah, just live this yogic lifestyle. But the problem was that after a couple of months, my energy started to get low for the first time, and I didn't know what was going on. So I went to a doctor. They said, "Why don't you try some B12? Why don't you try some iron?" So we did those shots. Didn't do anything, and then I went back to the same doctor.
Mm.
Why don't you try like low glycemic foods? I'm like, all right. So I did that. It didn't do anything, and my energy was just getting worse. And I was like, what do I do here? So I saw some expensive naturopaths, very, very expensive naturopaths. I saw a couple different practitioners, saw a raw food naturopath as well, and uh, didn't change anything. Like I got into the raw foods, which was supposed to give you all this energy, but I didn't have any. So I left the yoga retreat, and I went on this mission to fix my health, right? I ditched the yoga teacher training, and I just wanted to started studying natural therapies and natural health and diets and stuff like that. And I went on this wild roller coaster over 10 years of my health, of like trying raw foods, vegan, vegetarian, paleo, high carb, raw vegan, the whole fruitarian thing, 80-10-10, tried a bunch of things. I even tried eating normal. I even tried thinking, you know, maybe it's all in my head, right? But I just found that as I got older, my food intolerances got worse. You know, I had periods where I felt okay, right? But it was always short term. And, you know, I ultimately my health was getting worse no matter what I did. And I got to a stage where I kind of gave up, you know, around like trying to find a quest for my health. Because even though I saw these practitioners, not just natural ones, but also doctors, they're like, "You're fine, mate." I'm like, "No, I'm not. My life sucks. Like, but my health sucks. What's going on?" And yeah, I kind of gave up for a bit. And then eventually, where was I? It was almost 2 years ago, November 2022, something around that. Or no, oh, it was my birthday. And I was ready to get into my life. I'm like, let's go, 33, feeling fine. Well, feeling like absolute horrible, but you know, let's make the most of my life. And that day I was just, you know, I was sick. I was vomiting that day and I just had the worst day. I was like, all right, this is it. I'm done feeling sick. So I'd been watching a lot of, actually, Dave Asprey, Paul Saladino, Michaela Peterson were popping up on my feed quite a lot on Instagram. And the first thing was the seed oils, you know, because I still like, I ate clean. Like I ate what the world would call healthy. I wouldn't call it healthy now, but I still had a lot of seed oils because I thought sunflower
Mm.
oil wasn't bad. I thought it was just canola oil that you stay away from. But I was having a lot of stuff with seed oils, cut those out, and then it was really the big aha was Michaela Peterson's banned TED Talk, and she talked about the lion diet, and she talked about how she reversed these like serious autoimmune issues with this diet. And I'm like, well, if someone who's way more extreme and has worse issues than me can heal, then you know, little old Rory, I could probably do with that. You know, and I'd heard about the GAPS diet and stuff as well, and I was like, okay, what if I combine the two? What if I did like an elimination diet for 30 days, and we just see how we went? And maybe this is the little oomph that I need to get my health on track. So I did it for about 24 hours, like I said, as that joke video, but I actually felt really good. Best sleep I'd had in a long time. Felt amazing. Uh, I was just like an absolute beast at the gym that day as well. I was like, all right, cool, this is great. I'm gonna do give it a go for 30 days, but I'm gonna, you know, document the journey. So I did. And I within 6 weeks, I felt the best I had felt in my entire adult life with my health, which is wild to think that after I'd tried so many things and all I did was eat meat and that's it, just meat, salt, water, broth for I think it was 6 weeks, and then thing like my skin was so yeah, I had skin issues as well, and all these things started to resolve: joint pain, skin, more energy. It was just incredible, and it changed my life forever. So, and that was kind of like the big shift for me. And then after that, it was like this whole journey of like when you fix one problem, another problem gets revealed, right? You go down the rabbit hole. It's like when you find out, hang on, uh, the government doesn't have our best interest at heart. It's like, okay, what else is going on? So it was the same thing with fixing this physical health. So then I was diving more into learning about my nervous system and then also learning about like more about trauma. And so I started going down these rabbit holes of health. So not just food, but these things. And you know, at the same time, sorry, this is the long, short version, but
Perfect.
you know, at this, you know, paints the whole picture, right? Because you know, I know that when I was sick and feeling unwell, I was just like gobbling up all of these like testimonies for health, you know, and it just helped me so much. That's why I don't mind a good little ramble. But yeah, I just went down this path of like trying to fix all these different other areas of my life, and then it eventually led to like a journey of discovering my faith and going through that, which was like I know that's something that we'll talk into. So I think I'll save that bigger picture for in a sec. But um, yeah, then I found this basically so I resolved a lot of my physical issues. I was starting to work on my nervous system, and then also the spiritual side of things in my life was like it's completely like my life is the best it's ever been. Still things that I'm resolving from my past, you know, and there's still little niggles with my health because, to be honest, I fell off the wagon. I had a lot of stress and I dealt with it with chocolate and coffee, right? But overall, since I did that, you know, 6 week stint, I've been about 95%, 90% meat based. You know, I stick to that. That is my baseline, and I haven't moved from that. I've tried to introduce other foods. Some things definitely don't work. Coconut water, big no. Can't have a lot of
Mm.
fruit still. So I typically stick to a predominantly ketovore type thing. Gaps was supposed to be the focus, but I got lazy with that, and but I'm keen to get back into that. But it's just I've just found a good baseline. It works. It's enough here, you know. While I'm focusing on these other areas of my life, I feel like I've got like an incredible baseline. I know that if I eat certain foods, it triggers my symptoms, so I stay away from those. Yeah, life's just like who would have thought that just eating meat for you know for a couple of weeks would change my life so much. I'm just so grateful and like side benefit. I've met all these cool people like yourself, and now I have all these amazing friends that are like-minded in so many areas. It's yeah, that's my journey.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. That is so cool. And yeah, the carnivore space is really cool, getting to meet people all over the world that have similar interests and things like that. But yeah, I mean, who would have known that eating the opposite of what the government told us to eat would make us feel a lot better? So
Right?
crazy. But yeah, but like you said, like you dive deeper into the rabbit holes and you're like, wait, now it all makes sense. Like they don't want us eating meat. Now it makes sense why eating meat makes me feel so good. Like, you know, and
Right.
it's so crazy.
Yeah, it is, and especially coming, I mean, coming from a plant-based perspective, and back then, I think it was a lot of, oh, like, you know, I don't think the plant-based fake meat agenda had kicked in so much. It was more like that was what was defiant against like the traditional mainstream. Well, at least in my circles anyway, it's like, yeah. But now it's like, oh, hang on. No, that's not quite right, you know? And yeah, when they zig, you zag. If they say, "Oh, this is really bad for you," it's like, "Oh, that's good for you," or "This is really good for you." Oh, it's probably bad for you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I was looking at your Instagram and I saw you had two recipe posts before doing your 30-day carnivore posts. And
Yeah.
those two recipes, it was a gluten-free bread and a marshmallow recipe, which I think is a really good example of like what many people, myself included, struggle with cutting out, you know, especially going to something kind of, you know, extreme like carnivore. Um, were there any foods that were like really hard for you to cut out or that you struggled cutting out when you started doing carnivore?
Look, I was a big potato guy. You know, this is the
I love
longest time I've
potatoes,
gone in
yeah.
my entire life without potato. Like, love them. Yeah, yeah, they're huge.
Yeah.
Great. That look, I made peace with the fact that I'm probably not going to be able to eat the foods that I want for a long time. And at that point, I was ready. I wasn't like, it was like, oh, I'm just craving this and I'm just ready to just give it up. Like, I wasn't, during that 6 weeks, I wasn't even really this close to cheating at all in that time because I was just so focused on I was just done with feeling horrible.
Hmm.
Um, but the things that I did, like I don't really miss like I miss the smell and that sort of stuff, but I don't miss the way that I felt when I ate those things. So now it's like whatever. But then eventually, I did get hooked on dark chocolate. So that's probably the two things I miss currently the most is dark chocolate, because I've been off that for a little bit now, and uh, coffee. You know, I'm trying to get off that as well. So those are the only two things that I miss now. But apart from that, all the other foods, not a big deal. But that's just because I was so desperate and I was just like so
Hmm.
over it and I was so committed. And I think also having the accountability to like, you know, like my videos when I was doing the 30 days of the carnival, they were like 200,000 people were seeing it. I'm like, oh, I can't fail for these guys as well. So it held me accountable, right?
Right,
So
yeah.
a bit of not wanting to look bad helped in that case. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I know how that can go, being in social media. But yeah, chocolate for me is one that's really difficult. But I have like very painful side effects when I eat too much chocolate, and it's very easy for me to eat too much chocolate. So
Mm,
before I did carnivore, I started carnivore in 2017. I did it for 3.5 years.
mm,
But before that, I used to have debilitating joint pain where I could like if I bent down to pick something up, I would be stuck bent over for like a whole minute until the inflammation went away and my hips would get locked and I'd have like horrible knee pain. Like it was just so bad. And I'm like in my mid 20s, it was like super bad pain. So all that went away with carnivore. But now, when over the years, obviously, because nobody wants to, like, and I said this on my last episode, but nobody wants to just eat meat for the rest of their life. Like we wish we could eat whatever we want. We wish we could eat all these natural foods that are deemed healthy and, whatever, and they taste delicious. But, some of us just can't do it. And, but chocolate is one of them. And so whenever I do nowadays, when I do eat chocolate, those problem areas get inflamed and like my joints hurt again. It's not as bad as it was before, but it
mm.
it can get really bad. Like if I get carried away and I'll have like a whole slice of keto chocolate cake or it's like it's not even anything that's like a regular piece of chocolate cake with regular sugar or anything. It's still like low carb, probably almond flour or coconut flour or something like that, but it still causes me pain and it's just from the chocolate. But I have learned from experimenting over the years that my body can handle white chocolate because it
Oh,
doesn't have the cacao fibers. And that's where the oxalates are. And because chocolate is really high in oxalates. And so that's why I think I am sensitive to chocolate because I am sensitive to other high oxalate foods too. So, because I like
mm,
chocolate. And so I was like, well, let me try white chocolate. And so if you want to experiment with that, I'll just throwing that out there.
okay.
The white
Ooh.
chocolate, I can totally do that. Yeah. And if you find a good one, it tastes, it does taste like chocolate. And I don't know how you are with monk fruit, but I get white chocolate from the company Chalk Zero.
Okay.
So if you wanted to check that out. But yeah, the white chocolate, that's like my loophole that I have
Ooh.
found. Yeah.
I might try that. I might try that. That sound well, that's probably a bad thing. I'm
Right,
not
right. Yeah.
listening.
I know, right? Yeah. I know.
Wow, that's interesting. So are you meat based now? Are you purely carnivore? Like,
Yeah, so now I'm about I try to eat 100% carnivore most days, but I'm not super strict on myself because I've just learned that, I know stress can also play a big part in your physical health. And so I try not to stress too much about it, like if I like you, I have a list of foods that I really try to stay away from versus some other foods that I know aren't gonna they're maybe just gonna make me a little bit bloated or something like that. I'll retain a couple pounds of water weight for a few days or nothing crazy like that. But if it's okay, for me to eat those foods to help me eat a bigger amount of meat, because some days I do struggle with eating enough protein and meat during the day,
mm,
and so if I need to add a few pickles so I'm able to eat a pound of meat or in one sitting or whatever, then I'm going to eat a few pickles so I can eat all the meat.
mm,
And so that's how I try to look at it nowadays. But I still promote everybody eat as much meat as possible. And I think carnivore is great for everybody to try out, especially like just like as a good reset for everybody, because it's just then you can see really what your body feels like after you introduce each and individual item.
yeah, 100%. I'm so with you there. I think it's such a good launch pad because yeah, you find out, you strip everything back, and then it's like, all right, cool. I know what's triggering me. I know what's not. And I can always go back to that baseline. And then a lot of people seem to find their happy place within that, which I think is really cool. And yeah, I love a good pickle.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
That's
Yeah, and
awesome.
so I make make a lot of stuff from home too. And so
Mm.
I wanted to ask what is one of your favorite ways to eat and prepare beef?
Oh, okay. I honestly like, um, all right, two ways. One is ground beef. like like great. You cannot go past ground beef. I do like I go through phases, you know, because if I have too many vegetables, onion, garlic, even other veggies, I start to get body odor. So
Yeah.
right now, I'm like, you can't smell it, but yeah, I'm weaning off onion and garlic because I just went nuts with it, and it just makes me stinky. You know, I thought that going like meat based, you know, carnivore would make me super stinky, but all my smell went away. Like it was wild. I did not expect that. So you know, but for a while there, it was onion, garlic, cooked in ghee, and then lots of ghee, and then ground beef, and then salt, and you know sometimes maybe Mexican herbs was like the main kind of favorite one, and then lots of butter and salt. Like that's you know, or just ground beef, ghee, butter, maybe tallow, salt. Like that in itself is good. Or I love beef strips. So you know, it's weird. Like I eat so much meat, but I don't like cooking steak. I prefer like stir frying. I like
Mm.
my meat like medium well, or well done. I know, but I have a lot of friends that are like rare or raw or that sort of stuff. We all have our kind of things. Or I like it boiled in meat stock as well, and to have it like that because then you get to have the juice. But those are my three probably my three favorite ways. But I'm at the moment I'm more of a lamb guy, you know, because I find that it depends what cuts of beef I have, but or where I get them from. But if it's certain providers or places, uh, the beef can be too high in histamines for me, and my body
Mm.
can react. I can get pain or sweats. Or feel a bit so I typically stick to lamb, but there are some good beefs that you know really work for me. So yeah, that's my favorite ways.
Nice. Yeah. So I know a little bit about histamines, not too much, but so is lamb typically lower in histamines naturally,
Typically,
or?
but not necessarily, because there's one butcher that I get lamb from. They're certified organic, grass-fed, grass-finished, but the way they process the lamb gets me those kind of histamine reactions. So if it's like hung for a longer, I can't even remember what it is. I should know this. Like I'm a, you know, I'm a meat guy, right? But you know, it's typically the way that it's processed and then hung. Like either it's like if it's aged, then there's
Mhm.
more of like a buildup of these amines, which you know people with leaky gut or sensitive guts like myself can react to. And so some people, yeah, react to beef or things like that, so they go to lamb or chicken. But lamb is typically the way that it's processed is not as long or not as aged in the same kind of way as beef. And then chicken, I never get a reaction basically because that's usually like fast kind of a thing.
Right. Yeah. They don't age dry or dry age the chickens. They just process them. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. um, yeah, for sure. So I love one of your recent posts where you talk about how you went away for a little while to go through some personal stuff. I know I've definitely been through that, and like I was saying earlier, how it can definitely be really hard on social media, and especially when you have a lot of people relying on you, especially like to make them smile all the time, like that type of specific content where you're making positive content or funny content or think uplifting content, just things like that. I know it can be really hard, and I don't think a lot of people realize how much energy it can take from somebody to put that out there and to give that to literally the world. uh Especially like with when you have a big account like yours. um it can really take a lot out of you to produce that kind of content. But I wanted to say my favorite part of that was the Jesus part. Yes, that was the best part. I always love seeing when people get closer to Jesus. It's so awesome. And I think it's so awesome when you find him in dark places, because I know that's where I found him. Where many of us find him is in the dark places. And so I was just wondering if you would mind sharing a little bit of what brought you to Jesus. It can be the long, short version if you want.
Cool. Yeah. A very unexpected twist as well, and something something I'm just so grateful for every day. So yeah, so I disappeared for like, I was like I think it was like day 3 of World Carnivore Month, and I was gearing up because I was ready to launch a product and digital product, and then I was going to use that to start funding this regenerative farm project. And then I just had I just took the biggest L's ever and failed majorly at some business stuff, and it was really hard to bounce back from it. And I just stopped posting, But during this period, I was also like exploring my faith and everything like that as well. But I'll kind of go back a little bit. So like I got baptized like a month ago, I think now,
Nice.
which you know probably the most profound, besides being born, probably the most profound experience I've ever had in my life, and I'll get to that in a sec. But I came over from the New Age, very, very heavily involved with the New Age, uh, you know, energy healing, channeling, spirit guides, dabbling into plant medicine, DMT, and very heavily involved with a lot of different things, entities, all that sort of fun stuff. So that was my world and stuff that I was interested, because as I was exploring holistic health, a very natural progression for people is to learn about energy, or energy healing or these sorts of things. And then you kind of go deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole of all these holistic therapies and like different spiritual therapies and new age stuff, crystal healing, etc. So I was going down this health rabbit hole, and I was also going down this spiritual rabbit hole as well. And I thought I was doing these things to improve my life, and it's not all bad, right? It's not all bad. But what was happening was the more I got into the new age stuff, and the more personal growth and the more development and the more of these things I did, the worse my life got. And I was like, I'm doing a lot of this work. What is going on? And there were definitely certain parts of my personal growth I could have taken more responsibility in different areas, but I felt like I tried a lot. It was like one step forward, two step back. Sometimes one step forward or two steps forward. Like I'd get a little bit of traction in my life, but then I'd go way back, and I was spiraling into more and more debt. I was making bad business decisions and ruining relationships, and I was just in this kind of dark spiral. Meanwhile, doing my best to grow. So this was happening from about, you know, uh, I mean, it really started young, and I'll share a little bit more about that later. So it was like there was all this stuff going on, but I didn't really think anything of it, because to me that was the pathway, is all this new age sort of stuff, and I'd kind of come to Christ consciousness from the new age perspective and that sort of stuff, and divine masculine, like, so I was like really into this stuff. And my one of my friends, like I started seeing probably a couple of years ago, like a bunch of my friends were becoming born again Christians, and I was like, oh, that's weird, like don't they know like it's a bit of a scam, and I've fully had it all debunked, right? And but I saw it happen. It just kind of planted a seed, right? Especially, like a lot of people that I respected and were very heavily involved with New Age. I was like, oh, that's really interesting. And even like Doreen Virtue, who wrote all those angel cards, she's like, burn them. If you got it, burn them, chuck them out, get rid of it. I regret all of that. I'm now, I've repented, and I'm now like a full a Jesus person. I was like, oh, so there were all these little seeds, right? But the thing that really did it for me was so I my account was blowing up. This is 2023. Like 100 across all of my accounts, like over 400,000 people in less than 90 days, which is
Wow.
crazy, right? And what happened was I like my that was my goal. All I wanted to do was be a content creator because I thought it would solve a lot of my problems. And it solved like maybe a couple of them. But when I got to that place of being a full-time content creator, I quit my freelancing and jobs that were giving me a lot of anxiety, and I was able to go full-time. Very grateful for that opportunity. Um, but I got there and I felt empty. I felt so empty. I was at my peak, you know, like all this stuff was happening, opportunities, sponsors, brand deals, featured here and there. I was empty, which is crazy, right? And I was like, wow, where do I go from here? And I actually stopped producing. You know, if I would have kept going, it would have gotten bigger and grown, blah, blah. But I was like, man, where do I go from here? Who am I? What is this all about? So I started doing a bit of soul searching. And then at the same time, I was noticing that no, that comes later. So I was doing a little bit of soul searching, and then a friend of mine had married a pastor, right? And she got right into the whole Jesus thing, right? I was like, that's how I perceived it then. I was like, all right, this is really interesting. So I went. So she was into that, and then another friend of mine was invited to go to these alpha courses. I don't know if you guys have them there, but like alpha courses are these ways you go to like a church or an organization, and you get to learn about the Bible, who Jesus was, how all that stuff works. You get to ask open-ended questions. You know, there's no like peer pressure to convert and repent, and all that sort of stuff. I was like, okay, this is cool, this is chill. I've had an experience before, I'm open to that. And I went, I didn't really know why I was going, right? And about 5 weeks into it, I was like, I think I've got what I needed, not really taking me anywhere. I'm good. And then I was in there and I can't remember what was going on, but I just I had this present. I felt this presence, right? And it was different to, I've felt presence of, spirits or bad energies or, entities or these sorts of things, right? That you can feel. It's like, oh, like that feels really bad. I gotta get out of here, right? Like that kind of thing. I was like, oh, this is different. And I felt this love wash over me. I was like, oh, okay, what is this? And I just started to think. I was like, hang on, I don't have to carry the weight of all of my mistakes of my life anymore or any of this darkness. And perhaps I can actually like move forward in my life. And it was like, and I felt like Jesus was talking to me. And I was like, wow, so this guy did what he did so that I don't have to carry this weight anymore and that I can actually move forward. And it was like it was these it didn't make sense to me, but what I could feel was like at that moment I feel like I'm now saved from all this darkness that has been going on in my life. So that was like the first like big moment, and I was just like moved to tears, and it started to make sense from an emotional level, but mentally made no sense because I'm like, this doesn't make sense because there's so much deception in religion, there's so much corruption going on. I look at the way that other Christians live their lives, not all of them, but a good percentage. I'm like, that's not very Christian. I was just like, this doesn't make sense, but I couldn't deny how I felt and what changed in me. That was the thing. So I'm like, I'm just gonna roll with this. And then, we had an option to, if we wanted to, welcome the Holy Spirit in. I'm like, I've been trying to clear all these spirits out of me and demons for years. I don't want to welcome anything in. you know? But I welcomed the Holy Spirit in, and I was just again so deeply moved. And I felt like that was like the big kind of like the first big turning point for me in turning stuff. And so this emptiness that I felt, you know, was now, I was like, hang on, like it's not there in that way. I felt like I was filled for the first time because now my life wasn't about, being successful or whatever. It was about like my spirituality. But what happened was, as soon as I welcomed him into my life fully, I was like, all right, let's do this. And I was still exploring. I welcomed him in, but I was like still exploring because the head had to match the heart now. That was the next part of the journey. Um, so um, but what happened was we started to get attacked, right? So when you go on, like we live in a spiritual world, right? There's an unseen world. It's like radio waves. It's like for those that I know, probably a lot of your people are believers or that sort of stuff. But for people that aren't, like, as I got some comments, it's like enjoy your imaginary friends. I'm like, cheers, bro, I will. But it's like they're radio waves. You can't see them. They're invisible, right? But you can tune into these different radio waves or frequency, right? Does that mean they don't exist? No, right? But like I found for myself, and obviously millions and millions of others, that Jesus was real, and the experience of it was so 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 real. And if he is real, and I like, because I'd already gone down the tinfoil hat conspiracy path, a decade before, and I was aware of the dark ways of the world, and all the things happening behind. Like, I knew things were dark, but I didn't realize how dark they were, right? And then I started to get like attacked, basically, which is something that can happen to people that are new Christians, where my thoughts were worse. I couldn't get out of bed. I had no energy. I was angry. Like, all this stuff started happening. And so then started exploring this path of deliverance and understanding the unseen world, the different kingdoms, God's kingdom, the enemy's kingdom. And so then there was this whole path of deliverance. And, basically what I needed to do was start to close all of these doors that I had open in my life to, you know, um, to the enemy, right? Satan, the devil, whatever you want to call it, right? So it's like there are all these areas that I personally gave access to, the big red fella, right? To basically run things. And these are some of the things that I was experiencing that no one really knew. Really dark thoughts, really dark thoughts, really lustful thoughts as well. I like growing up, I was heavily addicted to pornography from 9 until my early 20s. I was introduced at 9 years old. Um, and also very interested in like a lot of what's it called? Addicted to video games like my whole life, right? So there were all these different things that I thought weren't necessarily like, I thought they were normal, right? A lot of these things. And what I found happened was that the more I gave my life to Jesus and chose that way, the more these thoughts and feelings and I started to change, and it was crazy. And this is after doing all these different therapies, right? And then I worked with a deliverance minister. I started throwing out all my crystals. I threw out all the books. I stopped listening to normal secular music. I stopped listening to hip hop. I stopped listening to my favorite artists, watching my favorite movies. I just started to cut all these things out that I was like, it's so weird that Christians cut these things out because that's really strict and very culty and religious. But I did it. I was like, let's give it a crack. If it doesn't work, I can always put them back in, right? I cut all these things out. Worked with a deliverance minister, and my mind was quiet for the first time in my entire life. For the first time, I was like, man, this is good, But then it got worse again, And this is around the time I had my rock bottom moment, because it was like, now everything that was in my life before, I'm like, I don't think that was me. I think there was other things within me that were kind of running the show. And so as I started aligning my life to Christ, to God, to living a more godly life and less worldly, right? And understanding more the ways of the world, things got better. And then finally I was like, all right, if this has worked and I haven't gone all in, imagine how good it would get if I went all in. And that's when I decided to just get baptized, and it happened. But the crazy thing that happened, right, is I was doing all this work on myself, but it was helping my son. I've got a 5-year-old, and he was having dark thoughts. And he was like, I'm like, what's going on with this little demon child, right? And a lot of this was coming through me, through my family lineage, because there was a lot of darkness. My dad had schizophrenia. He had visions. He had hallucinations, I found out, heavily in the
Wow.
gambling industry, all this stuff. And it was coming through the family line. So I started doing this work, healing my son, healing another family member. We started doing prayers with her. One night of prayer, a couple of minutes we did, 20 years of nightmares, 3 to 4 times a week, 20 years gone, right? And she'd tried a lot of things. So I was like, man, you can't deny this stuff. And so at that point, I'm like, cool, I'm all in, let's go. Here we are. And now I'm just like, I'm such a big raving fan, but it's like, I'm trying to figure out how to talk about this, because it's so easy to talk about, oh, I stopped eating these foods and I feel better. And now it's like, there's this whole world around Jesus and my faith and everything that quite frankly has been more life changing than the actual diet, right? For me, because imagine living your whole life in hell and then you're not there anymore, right? It's just everything's better. So that's. I hope that answers your question. Hopefully, I haven't
Yeah,
screwed anyone up, but
absolutely. No, I love that. Yeah, and I think it's so cool because generational curses are absolutely a real thing. And I think it's so cool, that you get to have that experience of healing with not just you, but also your son, and so you
mm,
both together get to stop those generational curses together. And I think that's so special, that our parents, our grandparents, that everyone before us didn't know about generational curses. It's something new that people are just realizing are actually a real thing. It's like people are so used to saying, "Oh, that's how my mom was. That's how I am," or "No, my dad did that. That's how I'm gonna be the same way," and then they end up fulfilling that destiny and then just passing on that curse, and then you pass it on to your kids. And so I think it's so cool that you get to do that with your son, and you get to stop that curse there, and you get to do it together. But yeah, it's like because for me also, like, I believed in God when I started carnivore, but it's like the healthier I got, the closer to God I got. And the more I wanted more of him, and still, it's still like that. It's still like a growing desire to have more of God in my life. And um I feel like the over the years, the healthier I get, the better I can hear him, the better I can serve him and others, and like the better I can live a more joyous life. Having that joy from God is something that people really can't take away from you when you have it. And so I think it's so cool how, and I've seen it with a lot of people too, not just us, but I've seen it in a lot of people, especially in the carnivore community, get closer to God or become more outspoken about their love for God and all that. And I think it's so cool. And I love seeing that, especially in this space specifically, too. It's just like in the meat based and animal based community, it is something that is a trend that I'm happy is a trend in the community.
yeah, I noticed that too. It's like, what's it called? I didn't really notice it so much before, but I'm noticing it more now. It's very cool. I'm like, wow, this is I think I found my people, it's very cool. There's a lot of common things you can share within it, right? And even people that aren't, they don't follow Jesus, they're not of faith in that way. It's not their cup of tea at the moment. It's like they're just really open about it too. They're like, oh, that's cool. Like, I respect that. Awesome. It's like, all right, well, let's just keep going. It's not like, oh, I can't. And that's really cool. Like, I find people to be very accepting and open. But yeah, you're right. Like, the more, the healthier you get, the more you want to draw them closer, right? It's
Yes.
such an
Yeah.
interesting thing, and
And the
vice
more you,
versa.
you decalcify your pineal gland too, you can hear God better.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had you'll dig this, but I was with a client yesterday because my main work actually is like I was a social media manager and I did content and like editing for people before my stuff, and that's kind of where I learned some of my things is I test it on clients, and then I like I got one made a video that got like 14 million views for a client, and then I was like, oh, I should probably do this for myself, right? So I was like, that's when it all happened. But so I was with a client yesterday, and they're full tinfoil hat people like us. But he got me. He was like, "Oh, dude, I've got this powder." I'm like, all right, tell me more." And he said, "All you got to do is take like." He was trying to explain how often you take it and stuff, but you take it, and then you start detoxing nanobots. From all the nanotechnology around. I was like, oh, okay, cool, cool, cool. So it's like I'm always interested in trying things to like improve my life as well, like specifically around my health. But yeah, I think there's a whole other. I think we're about to enter a whole other phase of like health protocols that we need to do because of all the just dodgy stuff that they're spraying in the air, putting in our food, doing to us that's like I think that we're about to enter another. I don't want to speak powerfully with my words, right? Because I don't want it to happen. But I'm seeing that there's like another thing that's happening that we need to work harder on, especially with all this, yeah, like all this technology. I'm not sure if you've had any experiences with that, but yeah, it's you solve one problem, and then I think that I just keep realizing how messed up the world is. You know, I
Hmm.
just keep realizing it. So to have camaraderie with people is just like we don't have to do this alone. You know,
Hmm. Yeah, and
yeah,
God doesn't want us to do it alone. He does want us to have community, and
yeah,
that's something that I have been working on for myself personally in the past couple years because I love my alone time. I love to hang out with myself. I love to, take myself out to eat. Like I love just spending time with myself. And so I've been, the last couple years trying to be more in the community and, going out and hanging out with people and talking to people because you never know when God has a message for you in somebody else. And and I love when he has a message for you in like the person you least expect, in the last place you expect to hear a message and God has something for you. And so
well,
being involved in community and talking with other people I think is really important. um, I did want to ask one more question.
hmm.
How has your outlook changed on social media and like how you want to share or what you want to share since now that you have Jesus in your life?
100%, such a great. I'm so glad you asked this because this is something that this is also a reason that I disappeared for a couple of months. You know, because I was like, all I wanted to do was talk about Jesus. I'm like, you know, because my plan was like, I thought my purpose was to build regenerative farms and work with the soil and all this sort of stuff, and it's there. That's like a secondary kind of a thing. But I was like, I literally don't see anything more important than Jesus. I was at that point, and I still am. Like that's me now. Like that's number one. You know, that's I feel like now part of my purpose, or if not the purpose, is like to just spread the good news. Like I get it now. I'm like, oh wow, people got to know about this. I was like, do I convert my account over and become an evangelist? You know, do I say, hey, the meat's gone, guys. This is now a Jesus account? Because I'd seen a lot of like there's a movement, there's a revival, there's a lot of big creators with millions of followers or huge influence, and like, by the way, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm a Jesus guy now. And you're like, oh, all right. So I was like, do I do that? I was like, wow, what a great platform, you know? I can really spread the word. And then I was like, I don't think that's what I need to do. I think that I need to talk about it, but I think I need to do it in a different way because talking about stuff that's I wanted an opportunity to talk about my testimony. I wanted to talk about stuff that's deeper. I wanted to provide a space to provide information for my friends or people that want to come out of the new age or don't realize how dark it is. So I wanted to have like a little hub that I could just be a bit more serious on because I have two sides to me. One is relatively serious and one is absolutely not. And I didn't want people to come to my account and see a video like my trad wife video. And I've got some really fun stuff coming as well that I've been wanting to do for years. But it's like, I didn't want it to be like, oh, like this guy is making fun of everything. It's like, is he being serious about the Jesus thing? I don't really know. Or it might lose its impact. Or, uh, you know, one of the side benefits of talking about stuff on social media is other people get help too. And like I've had dozens, if not hundreds, of people that I haven't heard from, of people that have been impacted positively by me sharing about my diet, gaps, carnivore, etc. They've reversed health conditions. You know, they've changed their life completely. And I'm like, I still want to be able to have that impact with people and still be able to share that and bring all my things in. And you know, I want to be a bit light and fun here. So I was like, okay, where do I go with this? So I decided that I'd do little sprinkles of things, you know, just make it very clear that I'm a follower of Christ and it changed my life. And and then I'll have another channel that I'm working on. So I've been like writing content, building stuff, filming my testimonial multiple times. The most recent time I was sharing before we jumped on this call was I was sharing about spiritual warfare, some of the stuff that I was talking about, and then my camera falls on my laptop and breaks it. So it's like there's all these things that I want to share, and I feel like they're better on a separate channel. So that's what I'm working on. I don't know when it's going to go live. Don't know exactly what it's going to be called, but it'll go over there. And I'll probably just do sprinkles on my page because I just want to just do parody and make fun. So that's the way it's going to go. And who knows where things are going to go long term. Maybe I'll just be like, you know what? I'm just I'm just going to be a Jesus guy now, and then the meat's secondary. I don't know. We'll just see where things flow. But for now, that's where it's at. Is I've got my Rory Bland, which is where people know me, and that's where I do all my things, and then I'll have my kind of separate thing. But my feed now is very good on my Instagram and my TikTok. Like I season my accounts, so I see what I want. I see meat based
Hmm.
diets. I see homesteading. I see tinfoil things. I see crunchy mum stuff. I see Jesus stuff, and I'm very happy with that. And I also had this thought. I was like, well, worst case scenario, maybe I did start to just be a little bit, tad more evangelical, right? Let's just say I went down that route. Apparently there's 2 billion Christians, so I wouldn't, I'd probably lose a bunch of people, but I'd probably find a bunch of others that are, aligned to all of it. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's definitely a big choice to make, I think, for different people, especially when you're like livelihood and all sorts of things are connected with it.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, it's a big test of to test your faith, also. And of course, God, will put something big right in front of you right at the beginning, to see, to test your faith. And excuse me, I'm glad you brought up that spiritual warfare thing, because it is real. And people don't think that something like that, like as simple as that story, that's something that you'll see in the movies. It's like you're typing about spiritual warfare. Oh, and then oh, now your laptop's broken. Like what? Like that
Mm.
stuff really happens in real life, and it's not just a coincidence. And and it really is the devil trying to stop you from your path and trying to pursue your purpose and do what God wants you to do. And it's so crazy how things like that really do happen in real life. And it's crazier that some people don't believe that it's real too.
Really? Well, we just don't know. That's the thing. We just don't have the education. It's not talked about enough. Like I didn't come into Christianity, and I was hesitant to even call myself Christian because I was like, if I call myself Christian, then people associate me with all these things, right? And I didn't want to be all of this stuff. I wanted to be a follower of Jesus. I didn't want to be that. But then I was like, oh well, Christian is someone who follows Jesus. How other people live their life, that's got nothing to do with me, right? But in the church, and I go to a great church, and I've been to a couple as well, but they don't really talk about it in depth in this way. And that's the stuff that really interested. Like, I'm interested so much in the spiritual warfare because that's what messed my life up so much, right? So now that's what I'm really, but it doesn't get talked about enough. And so that's kind of why I want to use that as a platform. And I realized, yeah, like, I was at, I was at a service last week, and now I'm a guy, and I quote, I'm like, oh yeah, and like John 8:12, and I was like, oh no, that's me now. I never thought it would happen. But I was at a service, and they were talking about something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it made me realize that all of this stuff that's happened in my life. Oh yeah, I can't remember the exact thing, but it's like some guy was blind, and he's like, "Am I blind because I sinned, or am I blind because my dad sinned?" It's like, well, it's neither. And he was saying that I'm gonna butcher this so bad, but sometimes stuff happens to us so that we can be a testimony for how good God is. Right? Is what I kind of got out of that. And I saw that all of these trials and tribulations that I've been through, whether that be health, the spiritual warfare, or the darkness, the financial stuff, whatever, and then my skills of building an audience, because I've also helped other people do that very successfully since then as well. I was like, oh, well, maybe I can build an audience and use these skills to spread the good word. So it's like, if you're watching this and you're struggling with stuff, it's like, I feel like God has a plan for all of us, and we've just got to be faithful, as they say, be obedient, but just like really trust that God has a plan for us because He's giving us everything we need so that we can be in the right place at the right time with the right thing to help the right people. And I feel like I really am there now to do that. So with all these things, which is really exciting. So, and I thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about, because this is literally the first time I've talked about any of this on the internet.
Awesome. Well, I'm so happy that you were able to come on and we were able to talk about that. Yeah, and I was kind of, went on a similar path. That's why I started the Yecca show, and because I wanted to talk more about things than just meat. And to be honest, the main thing was Jesus. So, I want to talk about God, but I also want to talk about other things, because everything is connected, like our physical health, our mental health, and our spiritual health. It's all things that we all need to be working on and improving and getting stronger in. And, and it only makes it easier and more fun when we have other people that are on the same page with us. And so I was so happy that you're able to come on and share that, a little bit of that, because I know you have, like you said, you have more stuff that you're going to share in regards to that. But also, before the show ends, if you don't mind, I would like to share your newest #1 hit single, that I'm looking for a trad wife clip. I have it loaded up here, if I can share that, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, just so you guys can get a little sneak peek of stuff that Rory does. This is the last thing that you shared, right? Your most recent post.
Yeah.
And there's a part 2 coming up also, right, in the
Yeah.
works. Awesome. So yeah, this has been really cool. A lot of people have been sharing it, so I'm gonna put it up here.
For a trad wife,
Oh, let's start this here. Okay.
I'm looking for a trad wife, sourdough, homestead, crunchy, eats meat, butter, wants kids.
Oh no. Oh no. Fail. Epic fail. Oh no. Party foul.
It's on the IG, or you can
So
probably
now
drop the
you
link
guys
or
have to go
something.
to his, now you guys have to go to his account to see the last few seconds of it. Oh, it showed that it had the rest of the clip, but it just didn't play. So now you guys have to go to his Instagram to check out that video, because it is really awesome. I know a lot of people are sharing it too, and just let people know where they can find you on Instagram and anywhere else if you have any other social media stuff.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you for sharing that. That's kind of my new vibe, is just having a bit of fun with that. And yeah, I've got a lot of things planned with that. So I'm just very happy that it was well received, because that's a bit more of the, me and that sort of stuff that I've kind of been afraid to share. I was afraid of losing followers, but I started gaining them again. So that's cool. Not that it's about that, but it's nice when things are received, right? But
Mm-hmm.
and legitimately using that to meet someone as well. So it's like, people think is this satire? It's like, absolutely not. You can find me Instagram, YouTube, probably the main spaces that I'm on at the moment. Instagram is kind of like my home, but just at Rory Bland is me, across pretty much all the platforms. But Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. I don't have any stuff that I'm selling or anything at the moment. It's just I'm just building the Instagram and just playing, having fun. But yeah, I've got a lot of stuff coming on Insta and YouTube. You guys have seen nothing yet. That's all I can say.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited again to have you on, and I had so much fun. And you guys, yeah, definitely check out his stuff and follow him on Instagram. He's got really good stuff. Thank you
Thank
guys
you.
all, and y'all have a blessed week.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks.